In the years since Columbine, school safety has been a hot topic. Parents understandably want their children to attend schools where they will be protected and cared for, and the media has often tapped into fears that schools may not be safe places for kids. Are these fears warranted? How safe are our schools? And what can administrators do to create school environments where all students can thrive? In this video, we consider the state of school safety in America and take a closer look at school climate, an important indicator of school safety. Despite high-profile media stories, nationally representative data indicate that violence and bullying among children are not on the rise in the U.S. In fact, there has been a significant decline in many forms of violence, such as physical assault, physical intimidation, and witnessing victimization among youth over the past decade. Despite this good news, some students do experience violence and mistreatment in schools. According to recent data, 28% of middle and high school students reported being bullied at school during the school year. 12% of high school students reported being in a physical fight on school property in the past 12 months. 7% of high school students reported being threatened or injured with a weapon on school property in the past 12 months. Given this reality, what can be done to help make schools safe and welcoming places for all students? School leaders are increasingly recognizing school climate as a key factor in creating safe school environments.
I think it's critical that we have positive school environments. We often talk about instruction, we talk about standards, we talk about rigorous standards, and we talk about differentiation of instruction. But really, that will not happen unless we unless we have really strong environments for our kids.
School climate is a multifaceted concept that encompasses the overall atmosphere of school life. Positive school climate can be thought of as the characteristics of a school that enhance learning and nurture an individual's best qualities.
It feels, to me, when you walk into a school with a positive school climate, you feel it as soon as you enter the building.
At first, it's going to be pretty obvious that folks want to be there, that it's that you can see that, and not to brag, but I think if you look at our school, our kids, they get off the bus, they're happy as they're getting off the bus, as they are coming in the door, and these are middle schoolers, but they are excited to talk to teachers and be greeted in the hall. They're excited to greet each other, and so it's just sort of that general feeling of kids as well as all the adults being excited to be there and showing that.
There are many facets of school climate, including the quality of relationships, policies and procedures, and the physical environment of the school. Two key dimensions, structure and support, serve as the foundation for positive school climate.
So when we think about structure, we think about schools providing clear expectations, communicating those clearly, and enforcing those expectations consistently. And then when we think about support, we think about providing a warm and welcoming environment, fostering a sense of belongingness, and providing the resources that students need.
Over 100 years of research affirms the vital role of school climate in advancing student achievement and other important outcomes. Specifically, positive school climate is linked to lower rates of bullying, aggression and violence, student absenteeism and suspensions, improved emotional and mental health, higher academic achievement, and increased motivation to learn.
I think that we realize that our problems can be very interconnected. So if there's a student who's being bullied, then they may start to detach a little bit from school. We may start to see more acting out behaviors or substance abuse or even dropping out. So we see that our problems are interconnected, but we also know that our solutions are interconnected. And so that's why we like this idea of positive school climate.
I think student achievement can't happen if there's not a positive climate. If students don't come to a place where they're respected, if they don't come to a place where they trust that they can make mistakes, that they trust that they're going to be safe, I don't think they can learn.
I think kids seek friendship. They seek positive relationships. It makes them feel more comfortable. It makes them feel wanted. And I think it's made us improve tremendously as a district.
Given the importance of school climate on key academic and behavioral outcomes, how can schools and districts work to improve school climate? Researchers from the Safe and Welcoming Schools project at the University of Georgia recommend a three-step process. The first step is to develop and communicate a shared vision about what kind of place you want your school to be.
First, I'd probably say you have to reflect on your own belief system, and that really is a lot of soul searching, and it's really hard to do it by yourself. So you have to do it, I think, in small groups of adults. When you begin to ask those real critical questions about, what do we believe in? What does that look like for us?
We believe very firmly that schools will have values, right, and how well they express them is critical. And a value that we ask our schools to work with is one that says that all people are respected and treated with dignity. Right. And that means all people, including students that act up. You can correct them in a respectful manner. Second thing that goes with that is that there's no room for aggression, violence, or bullying in our schools by anybody. And that's where we get back to the classroom climate of establishing that as a standard for all students to live by. And then the final thing is that all students can learn. And of course, everyone says, oh, sure, that's true. But then we watch over and over again how some people abuse that by saying, well, their family, or their background, or their siblings, or and start explaining why they can't work well with that child, or why the child is misbehaving, instead of saying, this child has learned to be this way, I think we can change that. Let's see how we can help this person learn more effective problem solving, conflict resolution, and the subject matter too, because that goes with it.
Our values become part of the fabric of how we do things in schools and districts.
But again, you read a lot about trust, and you really do change organizations at the speed of trust. That just takes time. It takes honesty. It takes a willingness to say what you think's working, what's not working, to make changes. And it really tests your own belief system about what we ought to be doing. And so I learn every day.
We recommend that districts review their stated and unstated values by answering questions such as, do our school and district mission, vision, and belief statements reflect an emphasis on creating a safe and welcoming school environment? Do we clearly communicate these values to the whole school community? Do we model these values in our policies, procedures, and daily interactions? The second step in improving school climate is to provide structure and support comprehensively through the school community. This includes providing structure and support to different members of the school community, such as students, teachers, and parents. An important way to provide structure and support is by teaching specific skills, such as social and emotional learning skills, in a comprehensive and sequenced manner.
This gets to this point of that teachers need to be thinking about specific ways that they can be teaching specific skills. So we can't just assume that everyone comes in to school knowing how to calm down when they get upset, or that they know how to solve a problem.
At Clark Middle School, one way administrators provide support and structure for students and teachers is through advisement lessons, which touch on academic, social, and emotional needs of students. These lessons are created by the school counselor with input from the teachers.
Last year when I came back to Clark Middle, advisement was sort of we give you resources and you kind of, put your own spin on it. But I think as we came to the close of last year and we started this year, we wanted to make things more intentional. And some of the feedback that we got from teachers was that they wanted more direction.
I think that that's the key, is that sort of specificity to our teachers doesn't feel like we're taking away their freedom, instructional freedom, because Ashley included them in the conversation on the front end. Like, what are the topics we want to cover? What are things that you see that that we need to be talking about? And then laid out a calendar for the whole year so that there are no surprises.
Members of the school community will need different levels of structure and support. Schools should have tiered supports available according to need. Specifically, all members of the school community need a positive and safe school environment. Some will need early prevention and intervention, and a few will need intensive interventions. At Clark Middle School, events called Connected Schools Nights are used to build relationships with students who are harder to reach.
We realized that there were some students in our building that we were always, despite our best efforts, having negative interactions with. And we wanted to just sort of completely change the formula of our relationships and say, okay, we're always having this. How can we set it up so that we have positive interactions and that you can come to school and have this, just that we can almost guarantee it's going to be a positive experience.
The event involves food, fun activities such as basketball and foursquare, and lots of one-on-one time between teachers and students.
I think the biggest thing is being able to see some of those kids now, how they're different. And it's not necessarily that the behavior is perfect, but the way that we approach them and the way that they respond is different because we are building that relationship with them.
We recommend that districts review their approaches to addressing school climate by reflecting on questions such as, are we providing structure and support across the school community, including students, teachers, parents, and administrators? Are we providing structure and support in a systematic, tiered manner according to need? Are we attending to the social and emotional needs of students, such as regulating emotions and solving problems? The third step in improving school climate is to identify measurable school climate goals and monitor progress towards meeting them. At Alps Road Elementary, Principal Anita Lumpkin-Barnett conducts regular check-ins with teachers to monitor classroom climate and identify teachers who may need additional support. Teachers respond to 5 reflection questions on classroom climate on a quarterly basis, and the responses are compared to discipline data.
We have found it to be very successful to give teachers an opportunity to reflect on their classroom environment. And one of the reflection questions is, how well are your students getting along with each other? And so that reflection has proven to be very beneficial because teachers talk about it with each other. You know, how was your check this quarter? Teams definitely look at the entire team. Once they go through the reflection of 5 questions, the 5th question is, how can we support you? And again, because we're looking at data that should align, if the teacher says, I don't need any support, but we're looking at 5 office referrals in a week, then we're going to say, well, let's talk about the last week, or let's take a look at a particular student. We'll go ahead and put that support in place. If you're giving it your best, then I'm going to support you 100%.
We recommend that districts review how they measure and monitor school climate by reflecting on the following questions. Have we articulated realistic goals for creating safe and welcoming schools? Are we consistently tracking our progress and reflecting on the data? Are we adapting our practices as a result of what we see? Schools are responsible for the well-being of students in their care. Another important reason to pay attention to the social and emotional climate of schools is because mistreatment of students by peers or school personnel can be a legal risk. For example, victims of bullying in schools may seek damages for harassment under a variety of federal and state laws.
In my position, I often have a phone call from a superintendent. So usually at that point, it's pretty serious. The superintendent's concerned about the reputation of the school district, how they can respond to a crisis that may have occurred, and oftentimes it's an injury to a student or some allegation of something that may have happened to a student or a number of students. So it's a very tense call. Oftentimes it's concerned about how this might appear to the citizens and taxpayers in this district. And talking to superintendents who've been through this, you know, it's just not real pleasant.
Fortunately, schools can take steps to prevent bullying and harassment. When students perceive school climate as supportive, they are more likely to seek help from teachers to resolve bullying. Creating a school climate where students feel respected, engaged, and valued pays rich dividends in terms of students' academic and social success. We asked school leaders why school climate is something that is important for them to focus on in their schools.
I think for me, I guess being a middle schooler and sometimes not feeling comfortable and not wanting to be at school because of things that were happening, I don't want that for any child. And I don't want any child to not be getting everything that they can get from their education.
I think that is the only way schools can be successful, if the climate is a positive climate.
It's a challenge, but I think it's primary. I call it the catalyst. Relationships is the enzyme, it's the catalyst that makes the whole equation work. It makes learning go at the speed at which you need it to go. But if we didn't have this catalyst, we'll lose kids for sure.
Safe and welcoming schools at the University of Georgia provide support for schools and districts to foster positive school climate. For more information about the services offered through Safe and Welcoming Schools, contact Dr. Catherine Rachinsky at krac@uga.edu.